Doug, what needs to happen for the Jets to have a chance at improvement?
First of all, they need to stop going hard and walk through. It's called walk through for a reason. That's number one. And there's nothing like optimism in June. Everybody has optimism in June. Their defense has to be better. I think they'll have stability at quarterback with Geno Smith coming over. I think that'll be good. But defensively, you trade away Quinnen Williams. Sauce Gardner is gone. It's well documented about the no interceptions last year. They have to be better on the defensive side of the football. And on top of that, there's even more pressure because the head coach is a defensive guy in Aaron Glenn.
Good point. Hey, the Jets locked up a key young piece along their offensive line today, though. I couldn't resist. Oops. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reporting that the Jets and standout guard Joe Tippmann have agreed to terms on a big new 4-year extension. That, according to sources. Now, Tippmann is the latest homegrown player the Jets have signed long-term after also extending Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. They traded Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams last November and then made 3 picks in the first round 2 months ago. New York also has 3 picks in the first round of next year's draft, which is huge draft capital. We'll see what they end up doing with that. Mina, what do you make of how the Jets have transformed their roster of the last year?
Yeah, it is a youth movement, and I think the offensive line, which is very young, was decent last season. I'm going to be watching to see if they can take another step this year, particularly that tackle duo, Olu and Armand Membu, because if they can go from being average to being above average, you feel really good about the young quarterback coming into a better situation next season, particularly with all the young talent they have at pass catcher as well. That, to me, is one of the quietly most important position groups to watch in the entire league this season.
So, there is a lot more to unpack here. And what she just said is what I want to take off on, because she said, you know, you'll feel great about what this team has for a young quarterback to come into. But, I want to link that to Geno Smith, and I had a take a few weeks ago that I aired out, and I already slowly but surely getting validated. So, I'm really excited to talk about this right now. But, before you jump into it, New York Jets fans, please, 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 do not forget to subscribe and watch the full length of the video. When you guys do that, views go through the roof, subscribers go through the roof. It's not about chasing views, it's not about chasing subscribers, it's about being able to create New York Jets content that people genuinely want to watch and discuss. So, we can keep having the most unbiased, grounded, honest conversations about the Jets. It makes such a huge difference to watch the full length of the video, and I would really, really appreciate it. So, the Jets are such a fascinating team right now because this team has felt to me personally that they made some awesome moves, awesome draft. Like, I've loved so much of what they've done here. And I kept saying I remember when the draft ended and all this when the actual off-season moves have been for the most part finalized, my whole thing was just like, man, just be terrible this year because then you can get a great quarterback, you get a great young quarterback next season like you were just in business. That was my thought. And then Dan Orlovsky came out and said, I don't know a better spot that a young quarterback could end up in than New York right now. They become the premier destination. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. But then I started thinking about it more and more and I'm like, well, I think they have a really fascinating roster right here, all this type of stuff. And then I'm like, but now they have Geno Smith, and I don't think Geno Smith is anywhere close to as bad as what he showed us in Las Vegas. And when you learn more about Las Vegas, you realize that team was an absolute mess. It was almost like someone pretended to actually know what they were doing and got involved to be able to be coaches, and when you hear what Chip Kelly was doing, you're just like, how is this actually real? How is this actually possible at the NFL level to be so disorganized and such a mess to not even know the right terminology, to even call the right plays? It was just insane. And then I hear that, then I listen to Mark Schlereth kind of break down and he's like, I was watching film of the Raiders and oh my gosh, they had no idea what they were doing, they had no plan, no core plays, it was just such a mess. And you're like, okay, yeah. And it becomes impossible to succeed, no matter who you are. And I'm like, alright. 'Cause Geno that year really fell off a cliff. And I said before then, where I'm like, okay, so Geno's not as bad as what that season made him look out to be. He had like legitimate success with Seattle. Nothing crazy, nothing otherworldly, but still like genuine competent success, worth like actually saying, hey, if we build a good enough team here, like, we can win some games. Like, we can, Seattle wanted to keep him. That's the reality. Seattle actually wanted to keep Geno Smith, no question about it. And then I look at Frank Reich and I said that, Frank Reich, I think has been unfairly scapegoated. And, again, is he a super genius offensive coordinator? Probably not. Does he know ball? Is he organized? Is he experienced? Is he competent? Can we at least say that he's a good coordinator just like as the floor? Yes. I think that is a very 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 safe and conservative assessment of who Frank Reich is as a football mind in the NFL. And so, when you put it all together, you're like, well, wait a second then. If we're saying that this team is like a premier destination for a young quarterback, then what about an experienced veteran with an experienced offensive coordinator? What does this team look like? And this is then when I saw this the other day. This is, snorts, Frank Reich talking about Geno Smith. I am just so impressed by Geno, Reich said before mini-camp practice. I cannot express that enough. I know we haven't played any games yet. We've got a long way to go. We've got a lot to prove and everyone's got a lot to prove, but man, he is on point. His preparation is top-notch. His football mind is elite. And I'm telling you right now, I believe that. I believe that. The way he's communicating in the huddle at the line of scrimmage, I've been around a lot of really smart and good quarterbacks. All I'm going to say is we're in good shape. Snorts, I don't think I really, try my best to always, cause coaches are always going to say lots of stuff. The media's always going to say lots of stuff. Players are always going to say lots of stuff. And you really got to try to figure out the reality of the words that are being spoken. Sometimes you're just getting coach speak. Sometimes you're just getting lip service. Sometimes you're just getting, I'm just trying to fire guys up for the sake of firing them up and still confidence in them. I feel that this is actually his genuine views, his genuine analysis. Okay. Like there's a reason why, again, Seattle wanted Geno. Vegas wanted Geno. Tom Brady wanted Geno. Like Geno, again, he's had a fascinating career. It's been a little up and down, left and right, topsy-turvy, right? It's been a little all over the place. Understandably so. But I have to imagine that his floor with a good enough team and a good enough coordinator is pretty good. Right? Again, aren't we always take things to such extremes. This person's trash. He's terrible. He's a bust. He's awful. He's a backup. Get him out. Or he's a genius, he's amazing, a generational talent, Hall of Famer, right? Like it's always such the absolute extremes. What do the Jets look like? They just have a good quarterback and a good coordinator. And a good coaching staff and a good roster. Like what does that look like? They're just pretty good. Yeah. Wait, we actually have competency. The rest then falls on the shoulders of the actual defensive head coach. Right? Does he bring that defense up to speed? Can he actually run a team? Can he actually get the culture there? Can he run practices at a high level? Does he know how to balance all of these things? Because we see all these coaches be brilliant offensive coordinators, defensive coordinator, whatever they may be. And then they become coaches and sometimes it works out great and sometimes it doesn't. And it's not because they suddenly don't know football. It's not because they suddenly don't know how to, coordinate a defense or or organize an offense or play call. Nothing to do with that. It's everything else. It's running the team itself. It's just running practices. There's so many moving parts. You see that I think that's what Hard Knocks actually does a really great job for those of you that just never really played. It shows you such a great front row seat into just how many moving parts there are. The fact that the position players, that each individual group is separated and they have their own set of coaches. And then we have practices are run and the meetings and the film study. And just hiring a staff. And then how much influence you're going to have. Snorts, I was thinking about when I want to play this clip. I'm not going to play it here, but I just came across an awesome clip where they were talking about Bill Belichick. And it was with Josh McDaniels, coordinator. And how he would come to Josh and be like, we're not going to run that much this week. We're not going to, I don't know if we should spend too much time running. And Josh was kind of he gives the interview where he's just kind of like, I didn't really know exactly what that meant. You're like you kind of have to figure it out. And it's just like that's the defensive GOAT, Bill Belichick going up to an amazing offensive coordinator who has tremendous power over Tom Brady, power in terms of control over the offense and all of that. Obviously really well respected. And Bill's like, yeah. Don't spend too much time running the ball. And then he just walks away. Right? And it's just like that's Bill Belichick's influence. And you wouldn't really know that at first glance. You wouldn't really know that. You wouldn't really feel it. And then Josh is a kind of like, then I have to go to this one of the greatest O-line coaches of all time, who's then also going to be involved in the run game. And he goes, and then I have to go to him and just say, hey, we're not going to really run the ball as much right now. And he goes, and you have to kind of ease into it. It's like little things like that, little nuances like that are coaching. It's not just X's and O's. It's so much other stuff. Heck, even though Bill Belichick's saying hey, we're not going to run the ball is theoretically X's and O's, to a degree. But even him having, and of course it's Bill. But just him saying, this is what we're doing. That's also more team management at that point. That's not just kind of like the X's and O's of hey, this is what we're doing. We're looking at this, that, and the other. It's that's now more game management, game planning. It's kind of all managing your coaching staff, right? Something like that, a simple sentence like that is kind of like checking many boxes, right? Your ability to command that from your coaching staff, your ability to communicate with that coaching staff, your ability to just actually say this is what I want, this is what we're going to do, your ability to diagnose that that's actually the right game plan, right? Let's say now in that instance, the coordinator comes back and says, I disagree. I actually really think we need to run the ball. Then you have to try to figure out who's right, who's wrong. Maybe your coordinator, the guy who you employed to run your offense is actually more correct in that moment. And then it's just all up to you to not have an ego and be like, okay, let's figure this out. Why do you think this is the case? This is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking, right? It's a whole collaboration. Not all coaches can do that. Not all coaches can do that. I always thought for me I was literally just thinking about this yesterday, where it's just when I think about people who are trying to get into positions of power or something. Everyone always tries to pretend to have all the answers. They always try to pretend that they have all the answers. And it's my whole selling point would be I don't have all the answers. Of course I don't. It's insane to think that that everyone has all the answers. But I know how to get to them. And I know how to have conversations with the other people. I know how to get the right people who have the right answers, and I know how to bring that all together. It's that's what I can do. That's my selling point. I don't have all the answers. If you think you're going to hire me or whatever me and because I have all the answers, wrong. If someone else is trying to convince you that they have all the answers, I'm sore. They're delusional. You can't have it all, but you got to be able to how to put all of this together. That's more coaching probably than anything else. Is being able to organize all of that. So, if that's who you have as a head coach, then you're really tying a lot of things together right now. And so that's what makes it so fascinating. So fascinating. And I'm not doing any victory laps right now, but it was just like this is the take that I kind of just randomly landed on, and I was like, yeah, like it just kind of like came to me about like Geno and Frank Reich and what they have here, and I'm like, wait a second. And I realized like, man, Vegas really was exceptionally, just a mess. Oh my gosh. And then I was like, yeah, and Seattle really didn't want Sam. They genuinely wanted to keep Geno Smith. That is, it's well documented. Like they wanted to keep Geno Smith. They wanted to keep Geno Smith. And we talk about how well run Seattle is. It's like, okay. And so it's like, yeah. What do we got here in New York right now? Then we see Frank, say this, and again, you're going to have lots of coaches talk really really favorable about their players and all of that, but like he really did it. He really double, triple, quadruple down. And make no mistake about it. Frank Reich opens himself up. If there was no truth to this, Frank Reich opens himself up. Right? 'Cause people will be like, dude, look what you said. None of this is true. It opens yourself up. And at the end of the day, coaches are always going to be like self-preserving. So if you are really kind of uncomfortable in this situation, you still want to kind of gas your guy up and be like, oh man, he's just such a smart guy. I'm so excited with what we can do. There's so much potential here. Like you would be like very kind of general. You would be really kind of vague. You would be like, you were working on some great things here. I think a lot of you guys are going to be surprised, and that you just leave it very surprised. What does that mean exactly? We'll just leave it at you just speak in a lot more generalizations. He was very specific. His football mind is elite. If he does not feel that way, he's not going to say that. That is too specific. That is too high praise and too easily disproven if incorrect. Right? And then again, you lose trust in not only the team, but then you lose trust in management, other coaches, other organizations. So, yeah. These are just little canary in the coal mines right now. Just little glimpses. Little glimpses. So, we'll see. We'll see. But, those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the New York Jets? What they got going. What they got going in New York, man. What they got going in New York. Frank Reich, Geno taking care of that line. Glenn, we'll see. Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But, ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help visibility in the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.